Welcome back to DC Decoded, where we break down what happens when artificial intelligence meets the nation's capital. We are under the GenAI Collective. We are the DC chapter. I'm Sam. I'm our creative director. And in addition to the Substack live streams, we also have a bi weekly podcast where we talk to everybody that is in DC that is AI related, tech related, all across policy, business, and culture. Check it out every 2 weeks on any podcast platform you listen to. And also, I help put out our news roundup. So we not only cover what's happening with AI in DC, but what's happening with our events. And that's another way we use these live streams for. And it's becoming a regular occurrence, which makes me so happy. But we have Anna and Catherine. Anna, Catherine, would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I can start. My name is Anna April. For those of you watching or listening, I am the operations lead at the GenAI Collective DC chapter. I work on primarily event logistics, event planning, and just the overall run of show events. So if you've been to one of our events, you probably see my face there. You can always come say hi. I don't bite. But that being said, that's kind of my main responsibility. I'm so glad to be working alongside Sam and Catherine. They're great people to work with, and it's been so fun. We've had 7 events in the past 5 months with over 700 attendees. So we're building and scaling the AI community in DC, and I'm just so happy to be part of it. So
Awesome. Catherine?
Yeah. I am Catherine, the founding director of the GenAI Collective. I think actually the last time we did one of these, I was still the DC chapter lead, unless I'm mistaken.
No,
So big changes since the last one. Now full-time working, scaling the community, not just in DC, but globally. So it's been a fantastic journey so far, and I'm just really excited to continue building on what we've already grown so far.
awesome. And as I stated a little bit a while ago, these live streams recap the events and the work that we do. And for this live stream, we'll be recapping Inbox Intelligence Part 1, which is a collaboration between the Gen Ed Collective and Notion, which is a productivity software. If you want to learn more, besides the search it up, you can always talk to me about it. I pretty much have it down now about how I go about introducing Notion and figuring out how it can help you. But whether you're an individual, whether you're part of a team, a company, Notion can improve your workflow. I'm going to stop myself there because I could easily go on. I don't want this just to become an ad for Notion. I want us to talk about the GenAI Collective and the good work the collective is doing. And I think a good place to start is, as Anna mentioned, we've had so many events in the past few months with hundreds of attendees. But with GenAI Collective, we're not just making impact with our own community events, but we're actually reaching other communities proactively in whatever region our chapter is in. So for DC, today we had an AI for Good Innovation Summit from Principles to Practice, and it was hosted downtown, powered by the DC Tech and Venture Coalition. And Catherine was actually one of the speakers in this series lineup that included things such as what's next in AI for Good, a global perspective, AI for Good around the world. And Catherine's specific panel was DC in the driver's seat, local AI leadership as a national model. It was moderated by Stephen Miller, the Chief Technology Officer for DC, and Catherine was on a panel with 3 other speakers. You can go search them up, but we're focused on Catherine here. And this happened like about not even 12 hours ago. Catherine was there. I was at the front row taking pictures of her listening. Catherine, what do you think of the event? What did you think about your panel specifically? Is DC doing the right things as local AI leaders? I know you mentioned some things are doing good and bad. So just generally, how did you feel about how your event went?
Oh, it was a phenomenal summit. It was a high velocity event. It was speakers in, speakers out, information, and a great opportunity for people to connect in the AI governance space, as well as people who are interested in exploring more about AI for good solutions. For my panel specifically, I was joined by such an incredibly stacked panel, and but leading up to it, I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, something I talked to Wolf about before. Wolf is one of I call him the godfather of the DC Gen AI Collective chapter. but basically what we talked about is how DC has this incredible opportunity to take the lead because we are uniquely positioned as not just a policy hub, but a tech hub, one of the top 5 in the country. And so a lot of the discussion revolved around how we can take this power concentration and use it to set an example for other municipalities and cities across the country. The one thing that I did, well, first of all, I just want to say DC is doing an incredible job. Like, I want to emphasize that. But the point that I made on the potential risks is that none of that good work matters if people aren't aware of it or if people don't know that it's happening. So I think it's incumbent upon us as the Gen AI Collective and as an entire ecosystem to bring more people into the AI conversation who are not in the dialogue. And different stakeholders like the DC Public Library System, DC Tech and Venture Coalition, and other organizations are looking to narrow this gap. But overall, I was thrilled to be a part of that discussion, and I hope that people walked away with some insights.
Oh, they did. You killed it, Catherine, and we were very proud to have you representing the collective, and agreed. I think that's a big part of the collective as a whole. We hold these events and we try to get different people in the door each time. Of course, we always welcome returning people as well, but especially with the soirees we've held, the last one being Dystopia Utopia back in March, where we made sure that there were different perspectives being brought into that smaller space, to the AI Insiders Roundtable we did in partnership with Halcyon and AWS, where we had about 3 times the amount of people because it was a bigger space of collaboration. That mentality of bringing people who are both already established in the AI space and people that should be, or we feel like should also have a voice, I think that is a big part of the mission and what we've been enacting. On that note, we experimented with a different event format. We've never done it before, and it was this Gen AI X Notion Mail event, which will actually be part of 3 events overall. This was the first out of 3. And it was titled Inbox Intelligence. It happened last week, only a week ago. It feels much longer. But before I continue with discussing the logistics, Anna and then Catherine, do you guys want to chime in about what this event was, where it took place, and to set the scene for people?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, setting the scene, it took place downtown in Foggy Bottom at the prefect's headquarters. Shout out to Jeff Hale.
Shout out.
He is the best. He has provided space with open arms, not once but twice to us,
And 2 more times.
and 2 more times down the road coming up this summer. So we're just eternally grateful. But he had a beautiful space layout for us. Huge, props to Sam. You really were the brains behind this entire operation. But it was really to just get people familiar with the Notion platform. We had a variety of different people, definitely a smaller group, around 20 people, I would say. Nonetheless, though still mighty, we had really great discussions that we can go further into in the podcast. But I would say it was very interactive and learned a lot about the Notion platform, and also it's just a great way to look at a different platform alternatives than just your Google that or Gmail that people just use out of the standardization of it, but not necessarily because they like it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And just to give a bit more context now that we are talking about Notion, it's this organization tool that both individuals and teams can use to organize their workflows. It doesn't matter if you're a more tech-focused team. The cat is coming in.
The cat is video bombing it.
Yeah, we have pets as well, and all I could say is that Notion is welcome to all users, even ones that might not use hands but paws instead. We can, I'm sure, figure out an exception. But Notion is really there to upscale your workflow, is there to make your work feel intuitive on how you structure it in pages and databases. And especially at the company level or even the team level, like we use Notion at the DC chapter, once you get more and more information, you don't want to guess where things are, and Notion is great about that. especially Notion AI. And as Anna mentioned, we didn't know who would show up, but we got a really great group of, like you said, about 20 people. Catherine was doing her usual great outreach strategies and her guerrilla tactics, as she has described it that way. So I am just borrowing her language. It was hosted on Luma, like all of our events, which is an event platform, super easy to use. It was featured in Washington, D.C. And I do want to address the one rating we got, which was unfortunately a 1 out of 5. But as I've mentioned, we accept all ratings and we want to address everything good, bad. So when I say unfortunately, that's a personal thing, not like a bad thing to me.
Well, that person didn't even come. They thought it was a virtual event. It was very weird. I think those kind of spam bots thing happen sometimes where people, you know, get confused or, are trying to do things. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. Yes. But just to clear it up, anyways, because yeah, I agree. I don't think either if this was a person or whatever was happening, they thought it was a webinar. So just to clarify, these are in-person events for part 2 and part 3. Don't check your email. Just come hang out with us. There's food, there's drinks, and great people. But yes, to address that, I just wanted to clarify that potential misconception. Catherine, anything else to add on to just the event venue, on Prefect, anything we want to do there before jumping into the content?
I just love the jazz music that you played leading up to the event and like in the middle when we were having our discussions. I thought that really set the tone and made it feel really welcoming, even elevated, I would say. So it's like small touches like that I think we can really iterate on and will make a big difference for our guests to feel like they're in an entirely new environment. So I loved that. I don't think that's maybe important to other people, but it's important to me to get these details right.
Yeah, and good to know. I think if it's important to you, Catherine, it's probably important to other people too. And note taken, that did not come up in our debrief so far, so I'm glad we've taken the time to get that piece of feedback out too. But the jazz music will continue. All right, let's go into the content. So, as Anna mentioned, I was point person. I don't want to say forced this idea because Catherine's always been very supportive of my ideas, but I strongly advocated because as great as Notion is, the company's actually been expanding their products. So it's not just the all-purpose Notion app anymore. There are 2 other apps that Notion has created, a Notion Calendar and Notion Mail. So Notion Calendar came out a few years ago and it isn't that different from Google Calendar or iCal. I hope I don't get criticized by Notion power users for that, but I don't think they disagree. But Notion Mail represents, I would say, a more ambitious undertaking for the company. So basically, Notion Mail and what the event was premised on is that everybody has to use email. I don't really think anybody likes using email, and I think that was confirmed at the event as well. But if you think about it, email hasn't really been updated or upgraded in decades. Like, we're pretty much using the same methods as we were using back in the 70s or 80s. So, what Notion is trying to do, and it's very early stages, but with Notion Mail, it's not a completely different mail service. Like, you still integrate your Gmail and soon Outlook as well, but it's like a Notion version of your mail. So everything that people like about Notion in terms of how you can really customize it based on your intuitiveness, your likeness, using Notion AI to quickly sort through emails, using snippets and templates within the actual email composition box to make the replies and the scheduling back and forth way less of a hassle. That's what Notion Mail is trying to do. And it has rolled out those features that I just listed with the automatic sorting with AI, customized views, scheduling snippets, which on the feedback form, most people wanted like more clarification on. So we're going to hit that again when we have part 2. But Notion is trying to revamp email in a way that I personally think has not been happening with other tech companies as of now. So on that note, I wanted to take part 1 to just demo what Notion Mail is, first explaining what is Notion Mail, and I think one thing that I was really cognizant of, I've also been going to different conferences and events recently. Nobody likes being talked at for a very long time. And of course, Catherine, you did great this morning. I'm excluding that, but I'm just saying in general, it doesn't matter who it is. Like people yearn for conversations. They want to either feel like they're actively part of it, or if it's like a live podcast event, which we are aiming for the third part of the series to be, they at least want to see people engaging. They want some sort of dialogue happening. So I think going into it, my slides were very minimal. They were apparently well designed, according to Catherine's boyfriend, which I
Yeah,
appreciate.
he's right here too.
Okay, awesome. So quick shout out to Jemboa. But the biggest thing, I was like, the slides can be as pretty or as structured as they are, but there needs to be time for people just to talk to each other and for me to like see if I'm still on the right path. Because that's the other thing when you talk for a long time. You don't know if you actually have the audience. Like they might just be politely listening at some point. So, as two participants of the discussions, I want to get Anna and Catherine your opinions on what the discussion groups entailed, like what you guys covered, and what you guys thought of them. So we've been doing Anna and then Catherine a lot, so why don't we do Catherine and then Anna to switch
Sure.
it up?
I loved your pacing of the entire presentation. And I think that the timing of the discussion groups was also really good. It allowed us to get around the group a couple of times, but also not get too in the weeds and, off topic. So we mostly talked about our own personal experiences with some of these different topics, like our experience with Mail, our experience with Notion, and then our ideas of like what Notion Mail could be. So yeah, I think our conversation was lively each time. And in fact, Sam, I was helping like get people back together sometimes. I was a teacher in a past life, which in 2023. And so I know what it's like to, you love that the students or the participants are having discussion, but they just won't shut up because you have to like, okay, it's time to move on to the next topic. So I was, trying to funnel us back in and try to like get us to concentrate back on you. But
I appreciate
over
that.
over to you, Anna.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Catherine and I were in the same group, so we covered a lot of the same ground. But I really liked the interactive format of the entire event, right? So Sam, you would give a little bit of context for what Notion Mail is, what a snippet is, all these little details about how to use Notion, and then like actually us being able to not only talk about it in the groups but apply it. I think that was actually the most useful thing I got out of the entire event was also setting the seed. Side note, everybody bought their computer, so everybody was able to follow along and download Notion and use it. And so just kind of connecting the Notion mail to your to your Gmail, to your Google Drive or whatever, that in itself was relatively confusing. I was like, wait, what am I doing? I was like overwhelmed, but I was glad that I was with other people that were also doing it, because then I had guidance. And Sam, you know Notion like the back of your hand as well. So I had some really knowledgeable people on the platform being able to guide and help me through and understand this platform, which is virtually what this event is about, right? Getting people familiar and using platforms like Notion, it really takes a lot of discipline. I think it's all about habit
Oh
and
my
just
god.
enforcing your ability to like really stay true to like being like, okay, I want to be organized. I want all of my
Yeah,
information, all of my data, all of my emails on one platform. In order to do that, you have to know what works best for you. And I think that was also another point of conversation we touched a lot
yeah,
on in our little groups. Everybody's method, organizational framework is different. You have to figure out what works for you. So I was happy to be part of it, and also with the conversations and the music. The music was like the perfect subtle cue, right?
It
That
was
that
so
that was
good, Sam.
I loved the jazz music. It was so relaxing. I mean, I thought it brought me back to like wintertime, like toasty, like coffee shop vibes. Not joking. But it was also helpful when we're having discussions, because it's like, okay, music's on, we're having a discussion. Wait, music's off. Okay, regroup. So that was a great little strategy.
Oh, Sam.
yeah,
Sam, pick me, pick me. So,
Catherine.
something that I learned and that I was pop quizzed about 3 times
yes,
during the session
yeah,
was Notion Mail. It's not perfect, but it's worth a try.
yes,
So,
nailed it.
yeah, so I mean, as an instructor, the fact that I'm even able to remember that a week later, that's that's a win. That's a dub. Sam, I have to say. But also, it's so real too, where you have new platforms that have such a steep learning curve. I would say Notion has one of the steepest. As someone who has many fits and starts of um, trying to use Notion and failing miserably each time, but coming back expecting different results. I think Einstein calls that insanity. So, um, so yeah, but it's worth another try for Notion in general, but then also I need to work on my inbox. I don't know about you guys. I think we all talked about this. It needs to change. And if
Yeah.
there's any sort of AI powered solution that I can just like stick in there, I need that. I needed that yesterday, honestly.
Yeah. Catherine gets a lot of inbound requests all the time. So that definitely makes sense. And it's funny because I saw Catherine's face and Anna was like, you need a lot of discipline to use Notion. I could see like war flashbacks on Catherine's face. And actually our
Trauma,
next
trigger
Notion
warning.
event, it's just going to be us dissecting Catherine's Notion. So we're just gonna project Catherine's Notion, like we'll just have
Oh God, guys.
everybody
And then you're
pinpoint.
committed to it though. You're showing up, you're
No,
doing the good work. That's what
yeah.
matters,
Guys, the funny thing is I do have a graveyard section of on my Notion. Like there's a I've titled it graveyard and there's like a little tombstone emoji and that's where I put all the failed attempts in there.
Yeah. And I have that too. I think like every like seasoned Notion user has it. So that's just what it takes. And yeah, I think discipline is a great word to use. Also, you guys are being so nice to me. Like, I think you need to make a statement that there was no script before this. I wasn't like, okay, so now Anna's gonna give me a compliment. Like these
Give
are
yourself some credit, Sam. Like, hello.
yeah, yes. Thank you. These are verified compliments. Let me just put that out there. But I appreciate you guys. Um, on the point about this type of event and how it was a newer format for us, I've been thinking a lot about Catherine, like what you had talked about this morning, and just generally reading and the past events. But there's this notion of AI literacy, especially for young professionals.
Yep.
Even this past week, Axios via like talking to Anthropic CEO and Axios via citing this Oxford study. Clearly, I have a go-to news source, but there's this stat that keeps coming up and up and up again about how like 50% of white collar jobs, especially entry level jobs, could be like wiped out by AI in this very short period of time, just within a couple of years, if at that. And I think all of us as young professionals, that's extremely relevant. And there's actually we're going to do a few more things about that, I think, for the content. But I was thinking about that when reflecting for this live stream about these types of educational events. I think the soirees, like they have their own type of education of like knowledge sharing. The AI insiders, that's like a specific group of experts who are convening. But with things like the Notion events, it is a form of instruction, of education, of a way to use tools that we're not like in a classroom, we're not getting a degree. This is something that I think practically a lot of young professionals can use. All of that is to say, I'm curious to get your guys' take on where you see AI literacy being among young professionals in DC, among your networks, and also yourself. Like, do you feel like you're doing everything you can to equip yourself to be marketable, hireable with AI? And if not, like where are you currently trying to push yourself to get those skills, whether AI or not? So Anna, then Catherine.
I think that's a loaded question. I think what I see just on my day-to-day basis in the workforce, working full time, I don't think it's necessarily AI literacy that I have, but it's more like an AI dependency. I know we're Gen Z. We know how to use our computers. We know how to search for things. We know how to use ChatGPT, right? And so I've talked about this like so much, whether it's at our events. I feel like maybe we've even covered this on previous podcasts, Substack lives. Um, but it's really easy to get like consumed by it and to like let the AI lead like your thought and kind of just do everything for you. Tedious tasks or not, like people quite frankly use it for literally anything, whether it's your most basic mundane task to like, you know, who knows, writing a 20-page paper, maybe that's it for the college students or whatever. So for me, it's really important to actually take a step back from it and like use my own critical thinking skills that actually make me who I am and make me be able to talk to people face to face, have engaging conversations, be human to other humans, you know, and I think that's what is your marketability nowadays, because I think when you get really reliant on it and codependent on AI, again, AI usage and understanding it does not equal necessarily the same thing as AI literacy, if that makes sense at all. But it's really easy to kind of be to lose in like your sharp, you know, soft skills because you're so reliant on, you know, AI or technology or whatever. So
right. That's a good point. Catherine, want to chime in?
I mean, +1 to everything that Anna said. Literally, like that's how I see the problem area of the codependency on these things and outsourcing a lot of our thinking to AI tools. Guilty as charged right here. The one thing that I will say though is I feel like I have no choice but to outsource because it feels like the bar has risen. Because we can be more productive, we have to be to stay ahead. And especially me in the role that I have, where it's literally like a two-person army that is two-person full-time army working on the GenAI collective. Just I don't have time to like write a lot of my emails. I don't have time to write a lot of the creative assets, at least the first or second drafts of them. The place where my critical thinking comes into play is through taste. So refining, making sure that the messaging is resonant with me and my values. But I think the bar has risen. At the same time, this allows us access to knowledge and synthesis that we wouldn't have otherwise had before. So PJ, who's the head of strategy, I think at SCSP, he spoke this morning in his keynote. He talked about his own use case of every single morning. He identifies a new topic that's interesting to him and using a deep research on ChatGPT or Gemini, whichever your pleasure.
Notion also has deep research, but continue.
Okay, for the record, this is not sponsored, by the way, but if Notion would like to, that is also welcome.
Yes.
So yeah, so every single morning he asks a new question, and that's able to basically supercharge his learning because he doesn't have to do all the mathematical. Oh my god.
Uh-oh.
The cat would like a word, clearly.
Anyways,
That's like move away. It's my turn.
Long story short, we have to be careful about how we use it, and it's really our discernment that matters the most of figuring out the right ways to use it so that we don't handicap ourselves by dulling our creative and critical thinking abilities.
Yes.
Yes.
+1 to both you guys are saying. I've never said +1 before verbally, but Catherine is already influencing me in this conversation.
Sorry, I'm on Slack so much. It's just
yeah. Maybe the problem with Catherine isn't the AI. Maybe it's the Slack and the emails that she's just flipping into
Organization.
Yeah. But we love it. And Catherine's written about this. Go check it out. I actually will also have a piece coming out about knowledge management and AI. So we'll promote that as well. But a lot more to talk about on that topic, and I already have some ideas of how we can do that. But moving away from the existentialism, and if you've joined us, welcome to our live stream recap of our latest GenAI event. Feel free to give us a heart if you like what you're seeing. Silence will also be taken as liked. Continuing to do this, and leave us a question if you want as well in the messages below. All right, so previewing the next two Notion Mail events. So as I mentioned, this is not a Notion Mail event in isolation. Both in terms of if we succeeded or failed with it, we would have leeway to do more. So that was part one that we all covered. And part two, we haven't put this as public information yet. So if you're tuning in, you'll be able to know the dates and the times and be ready to register once they come out. So part two of Inbox Intelligence will be in with the new. So part one was out with the old, talked about old mail strategies, but this one's going to be almost like an email hackathon where I described it as like a non-violent Hunger Games where we'll still do small groups, but I will be creating scenarios that will involve Notion Mail. So everybody will be using Notion Mail in different scenarios as if you were a recruiter, a product lead, a CEO, a startup founder, a policymaker, and people just be bouncing emails around. You'll have to use specific Notion, or you don't have to do anything. You'll get to use different Notion Mail features, and that will be Wednesday, June 18th at 6:30 p.m. at Prefect. And then part three will be what's next. So out with the old, in with the new, and then what's next. So Inbox Intelligence part three, that will be Wednesday, July 23rd. So these events are spaced out over the next 2 months. And we're still figuring out what exactly it'll be, but so far we have live podcast event and maybe asking the question, is email dead? More to come. Mostly me, I need to like brainstorm more on that, but it'll be fun. There'll be food, there'll be beverages, there'll be good conversations. So please do check that out. And all on Luma, Luma, the event management platform. On top of that, we have many more fun events coming up. I'm going to pass it over to Anna to talk about those exciting events coming up in the next few weeks. So Anna, what is on the roster?
Yes. So we have quite a few events coming up this summer. Specifically, I'm just going to touch base on what we have in the docket for June, and then July and August will come. But first, we have June 6th, which is a Friday. We have a special mystery event. Everybody get excited. We can't reveal too much, hence the title, but it's going to be big. You can register on Luma. Like Sam said, we have all of our events on the Luma page, and this all will probably also be somewhere in a LinkedIn post. So feel free to see it on LinkedIn and just all these different platforms that we have, even maybe DC Decoded. But it's going to be a big event. We already have upward of 90 registered attendees. So we're hoping to get that number up to actually over 100. RSVPs are accepted on a rolling basis. Just so you know, every event is different. Every event is a different size. Every event has a different meaning. So the RSVP list, the number of attendees, all fluctuate on that. Just for those listening or those curious or have had questions in the past about how that works. So that's coming up June 6th. That will be from 5:30 to 8. Get excited, get ready. Great start to the weekend, special mystery event. Then June 10th, we just got this actually live yesterday on Luma. So if you see it, sign up, register. We'll try to get you RSVP'd and accepted. We encourage new participants. The points with these soirees are to have intimate conversations with small groups around probably 25 to 30 people max. And so we like to get new faces in, see new discussions arise. But this is going to be our third AI soiree, hence AI soiree number 3. That's the title of it. This is June 10th. That's a Tuesday. This is going to be from 6 to 8:30. We're doing something a little bit different here. We hope to create maybe a debate styled structured soiree with the topics revolving around the proposed 10-year AI legislation ban, and also kind of what we briefly talked about earlier on in this Substack live, and that is the fact that the tech community is freaking out right now about is AI replacing white collar jobs. So those are two really hot relevant topics, and so we hope to probably get some opinions and some maybe pros and cons to both sides, and hear people's perspectives on that. So that's June 10th. And then, like Sam said, we've got the Notion event in the docket that's not made public. So you should probably see that hopefully up maybe starting next week. We like to give these maybe 2-3 weeks notice when by the time we put it out to when the event actually happens. And so we encourage, students, people that are looking to just get organized. You don't necessarily have to be a tech expert or researcher or investor or founder. This really, is a call to all people wanting to maybe just get their lives organized. Again, maybe students needing a new platform that's not Gmail. So Gmail better watch out. You got competition and it's serious. So that is June 18th, and that's at 6:30. So that's everything we have in the docket for June as of right now, and you can always just check Luma and see what gets posted there. So that's that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Catherine, anything to add?
Super quick. Tuesday, we have a partnership event with Station DC Networks, connecting tech talent to people who are hiring. So that's a great opportunity for people who want to, network in the height of the AI Plus Expo. Let me see what else. There's got to be something else.
Those are all the main ones. You covered station and then on
Yeah.
the mystery
Okay.
next one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that covers it. There's obviously like a bunch of things brewing too, so I think July will be, well, no one's gonna be here, but we're still gonna do stuff. So
Yes. So for the people who are here, you will feel included and we'll kick things off for you. Okay, perfect. So let's wrap it up with a quick segment of Rose and Thorn based off of the most recent Notion event. And this entails your Rose being what you liked about the event, and feel free to repeat, but also maybe say something new, up to you. And then a Thorn is something you found funny, annoying, anything in between that. And yeah, we'll start with Anna, and then Catherine, then me.
I would say my rose of the first Notion Mail series night is the fact that again, it was so interactive, and I really liked at the end of the event you made us send us made you send made the audience send you an email with using Notion Mail. So I really enjoyed that because again, it brought so much understanding and familiarity to the platform, which I think I really need. And I still have a big learning curve to pass because I'm very novice in Notion. But I think that was a great start. A thorn. I think Catherine brought this up maybe when we were just debriefing it internally, but I'm going to use it because I think this might just be good for presentation purposes, but I think we had a few different videos, but maybe that could be spaced out and just from a presentational aspect. But everything else was lovely, and it was a great night overall.
Yeah, agreed.
for me, Rose got to be the jazz music, that or the food, or Jeff, honestly.
Yeah, all three.
The people is what made that event really great. Everyone was so engaged. Like everyone was participating. That's not always the case. So it was great to have that audience. Thorn, I guess it was hard. Some people got kind of lost on their way up, or like we got to figure out the day of, figuring out who's going to be able to get past security to go up, because I know there's rightfully so a little bit of gatekeeping to make sure that everyone can get up safely, and the right people can get up. But I think that's not something that we can control. So
yeah,
that's all I say.
Yeah, we will adjust the gatekeeping as needed for future events. I would say my rose is just the people as well. I have been hosting these like Notion community events since the beginning of the year, as Catherine and Anna know, but this was the most official one yet, and I hope that it'll only grow and scale for the next two and a couple of maybe Notion events after that. So just seeing everybody there being so willing to listen to me, to try it out, like it's not a given at all. And I was really appreciative for everybody for doing that. And then I would say that my thorn is I also think that I think I'm just repeating. I was the one that was like imply that we should take new things, but now you guys have taken the best one. So I agree. I think the videos could have been spliced up more. I like put 2 videos in succession. I think that was just like my presentation brain, like fully on, just like, okay, video and then another video. So that's not gonna happen again. And I also think that this is like an unreasonable thorn, but I would love to just like mind read everybody as I'm like presenting and seeing what people are actually like, what the actual learning and process levels are. I'm sure I'm saying what any person who's ever given like a lecture educational thing has ever thought. Like it's just mind read. I could easily address where everybody needs help or if they don't. But I hope to just do better by having, like, as you guys said, just the discussions, making sure everyone stays engaged. Because I think the worst when you're in the audience or you're trying to learn something is if for whatever reason you feel like just slightly uncomfortable enough not to ask your question or just like shove it away. And I just want to make sure we eliminate that part as much as possible. All right, so I think that wraps up this most recent live stream. It's been a while. No ChatGPT karaoke songs this time, but we'll see what next time brings. This was a recap of our latest Gen AI DC event, which was Inbox Intelligence Part 1 with Notion. Be sure to subscribe, leave a rating or review wherever you're listening or watching this recap. If you are seeing this recap on Substack, please consider recommending us. It really helps us reach new audiences. We've seen already great results being recommended by the national organization's Substack, and the links to upcoming events should be in the show description. Until the next recap, probably the same lineup of me, Anna and Catherine. We will see you then. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.